Watchers, welcome back to the channel. Today I am featuring this Omega, which I have an absolute pleasure to review. So this is actually the current I guess solid wood box that it comes in, and it really is quite superlative in comparison with other micro brands which kind of try to copy this. So let's just just show it to you, solid construction, metal hinges and all that, and let's just press button there and open this up and show you this watch in here. So this is of course a Seamaster that you will recognize immediately. Nice Omega cushion there, and let's just show it to you. Okay, so right here we have the Seamaster Professional Diver 300 meter in Co-Axial and Master Chronometer iteration. Model number is 210-3042-2003-001, and of course all details and links to information I can find down the bottom in the description here. The previous or at least the initial MSRP when this was released last year, 2018, was 4,850 USD, which was really quite compelling, quite great value actually. I think a lot of people do think that. They have just increased this from the 1st of July this year to 5,200, but I think a lot of people still feel that that's still a reasonably compelling value. But before I show you more of this watch, let's just complete the packaging review here. So, a flap that lifts up. There's a travel pouch here, which really isn't that functional. I think you use that as storage, and then extra links with the tag there. You use this to lift it up. Okay, so this is the under compartment in this current box that they have. Before I move on closer to the watch, I just want to show you some of the other things that it comes with. Of course, it does have the multi-caliber manual, which I've showed you before. If you want to see this in a little bit more detail, check out my Moonwatch review, which I'll link up here. So caliber-wise, this is of course a three-hander with date with 3 positions in the crown. So that's really the first one they cover, and the most calibers with that configuration. That's really the most common kind of configuration you're likely to see. So it's 8800, which is right there. I won't kind of flip through it, but you can see it's multilingual. So the proportion of English is really that much. This is a multilingual, multi-caliber manual. Just to show you as well, this has a Master Chronometer certificate, and I'll go into a bit more detail as to what the Master Chronometer rating is about. And then pictograms, you get no less than 14 or 15 if you count the bottom one here. So in case you're not so familiar, I'll just show you quickly. Right, that's automatic. That's coaxial escapement, cross certification, manual wind option, double anti-reflective coating, so that AA sign there. That one means 30 bar water resistance, of course. And then you got 5-year manufacturer warranty. That is sapphire caseback with sapphire glass at the front, ceramic bezel, Master Chronometer rating with 15,000 Gauss magnetic resistance, silicon hairspring, and then a helium escape valve. So I think this is the most pictograms I've seen in a single watch. So, quite a lot to work through there. All right, so those are the cards there. Okay, so just put it aside, and I'm gonna zoom this in a bit to show you the watch. All right, guys, so here it is zoomed in a bit, and there's the watch. I'm just gonna tell you about the movement now. So the movement in here is an in-house caliber. This is caliber 8800, which is a Master Chronometer in coaxial escapement and COS certified. You can see, it says chronometer on the dial, so that's what that is going to be. Movement speed is actually 25,200 beats per hour. So that's a reduction, as you might know, when they move to the coaxial escapement to, I think, kind of to reduce the wear, yet preserve a degree of accuracy of the movement. A high joule count at 35 joules with 55-hour reserve. So pretty high reserve, in comparison with typical ETA 2824, for example. It does have quick set date, hacking, and manual winding. The Metis rating, so remember, cost certification is -4 + 6 seconds per day. In terms of the Metis Master Chronometer certification, they've gone for 0 to 5 seconds per day. That's what this watch is meant to run, and in actual use, it's running bang in the middle of that. +2 seconds per day is typically what I've gotten in the 2 or 3 weeks that I've had this. The other things I'll say about this movement is that it has a free-sprung balance wheel with silicon hairspring, so kind of non-magnetic hairspring. It does have a rhodium-plated finish with Côte de Genève or Geneva waves in arabesque, meaning it's got that asymmetric type of pattern rather than just straight lines. Okay, that's beautiful looking movement. Hopefully you can appreciate that in the macro shots that I will show here. Okay, so a little bit about this Master Chronometer certification, which is by the Swiss Institute of Metrology, and that's what METIS is. So it does have a bunch of conditions that they've gone through 8 separate tests apparently. So kind of a exposure of the movement and assembled cases to 15,000 Gauss, which is fantastic. Just to give you an idea, typical magnetic resistance rating for ISO certified watches is about 4,800 amps per meter. Now that's a different measure. That's magnetic field strength. 15,000 Gauss is actually more like magnetic field inductance. That's my understanding, not being a physics expert. So it's a slightly different measure. But in my understanding, 1,000 Gauss is roughly 80,000 amps per meter. So that's about 16 times the ISO resistance, magnetic resistance, and that's what the Rolex mu Gauss is tested to. This is 15,000 Gauss, so that's about 1.2 million amps per meter, about 250 times the field strength of the ISO certification for magnetic resistance. So it makes it pale in absolute comparison here. And they also test the accuracy in magnetized and demagnetized states in different positions, as well as isochronism in different power reserve levels. So a whole bunch of tests to achieve the METIS certification of accuracy, which is really pretty stringent. I think apparently it's the most stringent that you can get in terms of a certified third-party body. So let me know what you think about that. In addition to knowing that it goes through all those tests, you can actually put your certificate number onto the Omega website and get the results of your particular watch. And I'll just share screenshots here as to what this particular watch got on the tests. Okay, so enough about the movement, and could go on forever about that. The case here, let's just talk about the case now. 42 millimeters, so they've gone 1 millimeter larger compared with the predecessor. Right, 316 steel. Thickness is also slightly bigger at 13.6 millimeters. It maintains the 20 millimeter lug width, and the lug-to-lug distance in this case is 49.5 millimeters. So that's also slightly larger. Overall weight adjusted with a couple of links that I've removed to fit my wrist is 174 grams. So again, bigger and larger than the predecessor. In terms of finishing, so it's got brushed bezel facets, so that scallop bezel is finished in brush. It does have circular brushing on the top surface of the lugs, and then of course the kind of knurled facet there, which is polished, well known for the Seamaster finishing, or at least Seamaster 300M finishing. Longitudinal brushing along the case side there, you can see. Okay, a bit of polish on the side of the crown guards there, and that transitions onto polished at the bottom of the case back. Okay, that's the finishing there. The case back in this model, they've changed it to a display case back that you can see there. I'm going to show it to you, show you that arabesque finishing that you can see there in rhodium plating. Right, circular brushing along the outside of that display with a bit of polish, just on the wave edges there. All right, sapphire display case back, which is screw down. I like how they've kept it very simple. It just says diver 300M and 300 meters on one side, nothing much more on that display case back there. All right, screw down crown with, of course, a screw down, Omega sign crown there is a 300M water rating with a helium escape valve there. So, this one you do have to operate it. They've changed it to a conical design as opposed to the more cylindrical design on the previous model. Okay, so helium manual operated helium escape valve, which is a talking point at the 10 o'clock position there. Okay, let's move on to the dial. The dial here is a gloss finish, a laser cut ceramic dial. It does have printed details all over, so the Omega the coaxial, chronometer and whatnot, as well as the chapter ring, the kind of broken chapter ring around the perimeter is all printed onto that ceramic dial there. It does have applied rhodium-plated polished indices, which are all filled with superluminova. They're nicely filled with superluminova. I've got to say there's a bit of three-dimensionality to the lume inside. The hands are rhodium-plated skeletonized sword hands, so kind of slightly stylized. They've upgraded the shape of the hands as well as the length. It's got a simple second hand with a rectangular counterbalance, a lollipop for the lume, and a red tip, just at the tip of that second hand there that you can see. It does have lume on all the usual spots, and of course I will put a lume shot right here for you guys to appreciate how it glows in the dark. And you can see there's actually differential color on the bezel pip as well as the hands to give a bit of a color display in the dark, which is pretty well known. Previous Seamaster models have kind of stuck to that type of design. All right, that's the dial. On top of that is a 120 click unidirectional dive style bezel. Of course, in this case, that blue ceramic is also inlaid with white enamel, which actually gives it an extra pop. It does have a lot more contrast compared to the predecessor. And let's just show you the clicking now. So 10. All right, so 120 clicks, 20 clicks there, and it's not very loud, very solid, essentially no black play. It's gently, nicely soft to play with, not too hard, not too tight, kind of in that just right range. Is what I feel about this bezel in terms of the fit that they've gone for here. On top of the dial is a double domed anti-reflective coated sapphire, which is essentially the same idea as the previous Seamaster 300Ms have gone for. Same kind of idea, of course, slightly different shape and dimensions because of the upgrade in the case. All right, so that's the case. Let's move on to the bracelet, which is the famous 9-piece per link Seamaster style bracelet. So, you got that 3 broad brush facets. You got those 4 polished bits flanking those 2 brush bits there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brushed and 4 polished for 9-piece per link. And you can see the back side here showing the separate pieces that make up the link. So lots of work to get this together. It does have, of course, solid end links. You wouldn't expect anything different. And you're getting the screw links kind of adjustment for bracelet here. Solid arms as well as a very solid milled case back with dive extension, which is again rock solid. And the big thing that they've upgraded here is actually the push button adjustment. I'll just try to show it to you with good lighting. So you can see that there's a push button there, and you can slide it and adjust it about 1 millimeter per position. So, you can extend it roughly about 6 or 7 millimeters, which is fantastic addition here. Previously, you had to get this separately. Now they have included it in the stock bracelet. All right, so that's the bracelet here, brushed on the outside with an omega there. So excuse me, because I like to protect this with this protective cover, but you do have that omega on the outside with polished finishing on the buttons there. Right, so that's the entire description of the watch. Let's just put it on quickly for a wrist shot, because you can do that with a bracelet. Just snap it on, and there we go. So remember, 42 millimeter size on my 17 centimeter wrist, and that's 49.5 in terms of the lug to lug distance. It is definitely a large watch. I think I just managed to pull it off, but it's definitely a size up compared with the predecessor. Okay, so let's just talk about the things that I really love about this watch, and there's so much I love about it. Subjectively, I really like the dial design, just the way that they lay out the indices, the wave dial. I can take it or leave it, but I don't mind it. I quite like it, how they've done with the ceramic here. I like the sword hands. I do like the bezel with the scallop. Some people don't, but I actually do like this design, as well as the case with that knurled finishing, right? The way that the Seamaster goes. I like this bracelet, not everybody likes. So a lot of it is actually subjective in terms of, just the aspects that come together that make me like this combination so much. In terms of the comparison, okay, so I'll just bring up my old Seamaster. So here, this is a 2012 Seamaster model. So I'll put the model down the bottom here for reference, as well as link up to the original video review. Right, you can see it is a complete overhaul of every single aspect. So the dial is completely different, the hands are different, right? The case in terms of the size, of course, is completely different. The bezel, right? Just look at the visibility, look at the font in terms of the contrast with that enamel. It's just so much more visible. Helium escape valves, as I mentioned, is different. And even the bracelet, right? You can see, right, the bracelet proportions, right? The sizes of the different proportions, particularly that middle bit, is different, even though it's still 20 millimeters. They've actually upgraded all that, as well as, not to mention, not least of all, this clasp, right? It has, the new one has that push button micro adjustment, whereas this one has no micro adjustment. So complete overhaul of all aspects. What are the objective improvements? Well, ceramic, definitely more costly, more difficult to do, right? Ceramic dial there. Enamel on the bezel, again, an upgrade. The hands and indices in the new model are rhodium plated. Omega didn't actually say these are rhodium plated, even in official information. So I'm making the assumption that it isn't, but let me know if you know these are rhodium plated. Omega have come out and stated that the hands and indices on the new one are in fact rhodium plated. All right, the enamel on the bezel is definitely more difficult to do, more costly to do. So another step up. The micro adjustment clasp, previously you had to pay about $300 to get that. And not least of all, of course, is the huge step up in the movement, in-house movement, whereas previously it was more an ETA 2892 with coaxial modification. This one is now completely in-house with everything that it comes here. It remains cost certified, but it has that new superlative meters certification with a higher stringency for the accuracy rating. Okay, so all that step up, what did they change in terms of pricing? 4,004 to 4,850. I think a lot of people thought that that was just a fantastic thing that Omega did, and this is deservedly one of the most talked about pieces after Baselworld 2018. Okay, that's just really what you're getting in terms of the upgrade here. Now, the things that I think I have some reservation, or you might have some reservation if you're considering this watch, I would say the bigger size, right, 1 millimeter wider, 0.6 millimeter thicker, right, and 13 grams heavier in terms of adjusted weight. It means it definitely is a bigger and heavier watch. So some people didn't quite like that. I think that that has settled down a bit, and I don't mind the 42 millimeter size, but I would say that if they kept it at 41, I probably would like it even more. It is actually also a bolder watch with bolder indices, kind of bolder hands, larger indices as well. I put it side by side, you can see the indices are definitely a step up in size. So it's actually less versatile, particularly also with the slightly thicker case here. Okay, so that's the difference here. If you want to wear a suit, I think this one definitely goes quieter and is more suitable in more formal occasion. This one just a little bit more sporty and tool is what I feel about it. Okay, and then lastly, I would say that the subjective things that people complain about or maybe don't quite like. Wave dial, right? Some people don't like that. The sword hand, some people really don't like how it's skeletonized. The scallop bezel as opposed to coin edge or something different. People have said that this is not easy to grip. I don't have a big issue about that. I've never found that a big problem. And then lastly, I will say the bracelet at 20 millimeters with a 42 case may be felt to be slightly disproportionate, but I say it doesn't taper at all. So it remains 20 millimeters here. So I think it kind of gets away with it. I think that's what I felt with the Seamaster models anyway. Okay, so I think that's enough talking. I'm going to do a triple comparison with this predecessor as well as the original wave dial Pierce Brosnan. So look out for that video in the near future. I've spoken enough. Let me know about your thoughts of this watch, which frankly I think is just a fantastic piece from Omega. So guys, if you enjoy my videos, do consider subscribing. New content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you again for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you guys next time.